Hey guys, welcome back. So I've gotten a little bit of feedback from Laura, I guess. Maybe it wasn't intentional feedback, but she said I was like being thoughtful and deep or whatever in these. And that's not kind of the intention. The intention is to be, revealing, kind of like let you know who I am, was, that kind of thing, depending on when this ever gets watched. And, I've seen those books that have you send them to your dad and it's got all the questions and they answer all the questions or whatever. And so, after he dies, that everybody has kind of a good feel for, what he was, I start doing that kind of crap. A good feel for his life, the way he thought and what he did as a kid, what he did as an adult, that kind of thing. Well, I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about in this one. If I'm following my topics of a life documented, I should be going over my childhood home and like my earliest memories and things like that. And so I can hit those real fast so that I don't skew too much from the path. So I'll do those real fast. My childhood home, my dad was in the Air Force. We got to go trick-or-treating by ourselves, running house to house with pillowcases, filling them up with candy without really any fears on an Air Force base. I mean, it really didn't get much better than that, honestly. The other thing was we would go down, like in North Carolina was one of my favorite places, because I guess that's when I was the most aware kid when I was alive. Like when you're young, you're not too aware of too many things. Like I don't have really vivid memories of being super young, besides getting attacked by the dog or whatever when I was in kindergarten or first grade. I don't remember too much about my childhood there. Just kind of severe things, that pop up. Like I remember being in Okinawa at that age and going for 10 yen, buying Felix gum. And that was, they had this guy that had this candy stand that was on this back road, which a little bit sketchy now that I think about it. But Mom would give us a 10 yen piece and we'd walk over there and give it to him, and he would give us a piece of Felix gum, which was, from what I remember, was so delicious. Like, it was really good. Me and my sister would go get one of those. And we would eat these things called Seymours, which were these dried plums that were super salty and sour. And you would eat them and you'd go, but you couldn't stop eating. You would eat, it was so dried up, and basically you had this, it was a plum, and you would be eating this, the dried up skin with this salty, sour sugar coating on it, and you don't bite into the seed, but you'd be chewing all the meat off of that seed, and you'd be like, makes my water mouth right now thinking about it. But yeah, it was pretty salty and pretty sour, but they were really good. I think my sister still eats them to this day. But those kind of things I can remember. I remember also being in North Carolina. We would always have a club that we would force my sister to join for some initiation fee and initiation test, like making her jump off the bridge into the creek water and paying us money, and then we would go to the BX and buy these lemon and lime squeezy things, you'd squeeze it, and we would just eat those. Yeah, so fun childhood as far as that goes. Being on an Air Force base, it was pretty. Being a latchkey kid in that environment is probably optimal. It's not like being in like North Fort Smith or anywhere in Fort Smith really, and going in a house by yourself all the time, riding your bike home and that kind of junk. When we moved to Maine, my dad got stationed up at Loring. I was I was entering the 6th grade, and I went through to the 9th grade there. That was a lot of fun too. And when you think about just general fun places, that Maine was generally fun. My dad bought us every snow toy possible. He even got himself a snowmobile and allowed me to ride it and stuff, which was really cool. When I learned to ski, we would go to the ski chalet on base. It didn't cost much money, and he would ride on this basically a lift that pulls you up, but it was one of those kind of lifts that had a little black bar hanging off a big cable, and if you get good, you pull up on the wire, you put the black thing, you flip it up around your back, and you ride up the hill, pull you up, and then when you got up there, you just pushed off and go down the hill and ski, and I just did that all, over and over and over again. Tons of fun. They even had competitions there and stuff. They would set up slalom poles, and we got to do some skiing for medals, and it was awesome because I did win a few medals in skiing on that thing. And it's not like there was, national competition or even regional competition. It was just whoever was at the ski lodge that day would get up there and just ski as fast as they get through there and time you. And then like a little ceremony at the end, and you would get this cute little medal. And I had them for the longest time. And I think just recently, not too long ago, I saw someone had them and put them on their backpack. One of the little boys, I think, and now they've kind of just disappeared, which is not that big a deal, but because referred to my last video, getting rid of that stuff. But so riding the snowmobile, meeting, I had a girlfriend, my first girlfriend there. My first girlfriend, I think her name was Michelle Wortham, and my sister told me she liked me or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And so we went snowmobiling one time. My sister was on the back of mine, and Michelle had her own snowmobile. Not her own, but her dad's, and we're riding around. And at the end of it, it was so cringe, so, as the kids say, cringe. It's so awkward. I was like, would you go out with me? And you're like this 7th or 8th grade kid, and she was like, yes. And I never talked to her again. Just did not know what to do with all that. Humiliating experience or probably not humiliating, but maybe disappointing for that other person. Not that I was some great catch or she had high expectations or anything, but you know what I'm saying. It was just cringy, first thing, and then another girlfriend named Kim, and just behaving stupidly there. My friend Brian at the time was, Kim was so not faithful, let's just say, that she was seeing Brian, and the whole 8th grade, 9th grade love triangle drama, and there was no love there. But I remember on my last day, I was saying, okay, so the last day was the last day of school. My last day in Maine was our last day of school, and my dad was picking us up in the motorhome, and we were driving to Texas because my dad got stationed at Carswell. So it was my last day. I'm leaving. I'm saying bye to people. Hey, bye. See y'all later. It wasn't any big deal. And then Brian, knowing the situation, says, Micah, he kind of confessed what he had done or something. And I was like, okay, bye. But maybe that plays into some of the trust issues I have today. Who knows? And that's kind of where I'm going to maybe stop talking about the childhood because, well, I can just do a few more things. I played baseball. I played on the 9th grade basketball team. There were I think 9 of us on the team, and he pulled over 7, and the other 2 were just have you seen those cartoons where they're picking kids, this one, and the last one is this kid in a with a broken leg and well, those were the ones that were 8 and 9, and so 1 through 7, the coach pulled us over and says, you guys are going to be my main guys, and I think I was number 7, just above the guy with the crutches. I was not very good at basketball, but my dad got me to practices or whatever, picked me up anyway, so that kind of thing happened. We played football all the time as kids. Even when I moved down to Texas, I found some friends, and we would play pickup football constantly. In fact, John Breon, he's one of my Facebook friends now, and if you guys get access to my Facebook or whatever, you can hit him. You could probably see him. He's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. We're not close friends, I wouldn't say, but he was a good friend. and he created this thing called the Turkey Bowl. And for many, many years in a row, didn't matter what the weather was, whatever, we would all meet on Thanksgiving and play football for a few hours. It was great. And they played it even after I left Texas. I mean, that's how many years it's gone. We started it maybe in my senior year in high school, maybe in 85, 84. And then, you know, I didn't move move to Arkansas until 1995. And so that's 10 years of, you know, turkey bowls, plus all the times we play. I mean, we played constantly. But it was really cool because they continued playing even though I wasn't playing. They would still have them. For a while, they would let me know that they were playing them and stuff. And one year I went down and I got to play one, see everybody again. That was kind of cool. But man, everybody's out of shape, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I played a ton of softball. I was okay. I hit the ball hard, I guess. I could catch, I could throw. I mean, I was no specimen by any means, but contributor. I tried. Let's see, what else was there? My friends started bands, and you know, I would go in. Like sometimes we would go to the. Oh, I remember one time we went to Renee's shop. He worked at a shop or owned a shop. I can't remember which one it was, but that put the sleepers on the back of big rigs. And we went there one time, and it's a big metal building. Brought all our stuff there. Brian Davis was there. John was there with his keyboards. I think it was Scott Tinius playing the drums. And I was playing rhythm, and who was bass? I don't remember if anyone brought bass, but we would play, and we were so loud. And Brian was and Scott was pretty good on drums. John knew his parts on keyboard. I don't think he was a musician, but he had the heart and attitude to want to do, and he did the things that he was supposed to do correctly. And I was just a hack still, and we would be playing, you know, certain songs, but we'd be loud. And the cops came, and we were out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, the shop was out in the middle of nowhere, and so they were getting noise complaints and asked us to turn it down or whatever. But Brian Davis, as we were playing, he get all excited, and he's really playing some Stevie Ray Vaughan song or something, and he had this big box fan, you know, the kind that's like 4 foot by 4 foot with a, you know, no grill on it or whatever, and spinning around, just keeping us from dying in there because it was so hot. He grabs his guitar and he puts his guitar in there, and it basically shaves off, and you know, a smooth edge on the front of, you know, I got a guitar right here, I can show you, like right up here on this guitar. He's like, and it was like, it didn't like just take it, it's like someone took a saw and hit it off right there because it was so aggressive. But anyhow, those were fun times. So that's kind of like my childhood. Kind of stayed out of trouble. Never did anything really, really bad. Really, really good either. I didn't understand things like what a scholarship was, why I should be pursuing it. My dad never went over stuff like that, you know, and it was like, hey, your future. The only time he did was when it was time for my future, you know, time for, you know, to do the next thing. He did talk to me about, like I think I mentioned in another one, that Mike, computers are the way of the future. You need to be into that. And so, you know, I did. Yeah, and another thing was my dad was really against me spending my money. He'd get mad at me. So I snuck off one time, and I think we went to the Bass BX, and there was a Hondo black electric guitar and a Crate amp, and I bought those, and I think it was like $150 or something like that, and I spent it. And my dad found it. I was like, what? What's this? And I was like, I bought this. And he was like, oh, he got all mad and stuff, but he didn't kill me. And I don't even think, I mean, he just yelled at me or something. It wasn't even that big of a deal. But I do remember being afraid to spend my money because he would be upset. What else? There's nothing really that memorable. Yeah, so kind of just go off of that. I think that did, like, my earliest memory. Oh yeah, my earliest memory. This is weird because my earliest memory I was laying in the back. I think it's almost like when consciousness set in. And the only thing I remember is I was like suddenly awake in the back seat of, okay, so when I was little, I mean, we were in Okinawa at the time. When I was little, you didn't sit in a car seat. You didn't have bike helmets. You know, everybody always hears those stories, but it's true. There was, I mean, we climbed around the back seat. We rode in the back of trucks that were driving down the road. We literally did have gun racks in the back of our cars with guns in them, left unlocked, and nobody, I don't remember anyone ever stealing someone else's gun. Yeah, so it was definitely a different time, and I could even say like a better time as far as people and stuff. Generally, less Karens, less Chads, less those kind of folks. And if you're watching it wondering what a Karen or Chad is, it's that kind of person who thinks they have to, enforce the rules on everybody else and expects to be obeyed and listened to when they bring stuff up, and yeah, there was a lot less of that. More people, it seemed, were respectable, even in high school. Like I remember getting in a fight one time. We were playing, was a flag football league, and I put a team together, but then it got taken over, and I was pretty butthurt about that. And I was like, hey man, hey, you might look for me on the outside. I'm open or whatever. And they really, no, they did, because that's what kind of started the fight. But so I would go out, and the other guy on the other team was just looking for something, one of those kind of kids. And so the play would be over, and he'd run up and he'd shove me in the back or whatever. And he would say something like, oh, I wish we were playing tackle and stuff like that. And I go, yeah, me too. And so we kind of just, like those chickens, each other's faces. And of course, I was the odd man out because everybody else kind of knew each other from years and years, I guess. And that didn't really go anywhere, but that's kind of like the worst of it, I mean, being called chink or gook or slant eye or whatever all the time. Not all, I wouldn't say every day, but it was there. Black people said it, white people said it, Mexicans said it, other Chinese people said it, or Asian people. So yeah, it wasn't a thing. I mean, systemic racism towards me never existed. Just stupid people, from my perspective. Also, I'm not on any spectrum. Well, I guess I'm on every spectrum. Everybody is on some spectrum, because the spectrum goes from you got it all the way to you don't got it at all. But don't got it at all is still on the spectrum. So I guess I could say I'm on a spectrum, huh? But healthy, no issues, allergies. Like growing up, and I would use it to my advantage too. I remember not wanting to mow the lawn. Oh, phew, looking inside. Oh, phew, like that. Come inside. And then, my dad grew tired of it. Would mow the lawn. I'd mow it every once in a while, but for the most part, he mowed the lawns and stuff, and I got out of it. And now, paying for that, it's just, yeah. Not that I want anybody to do it. It's just, it's just the not wanting to do the work. And my gosh, what's the deal? Everybody is texting. Anyways, I'm not going to answer. You could just hear it. So this thing goes like I can get it going here. Yeah, it's trying to, if I set perfectly still, it still just takes forever to figure it out. Maybe if I just do this, there we go. Okay, where was I? Well, I'm gonna stop that because I don't really have anything to share on that. I am a very happy, had a very, for the most part, happy childhood. I don't feel like I'm not a lovey person where I love you, and have those kind of emotions. I don't feel like I have the hate kind of emotion either. I do have a little bit of rage every once in a while and do stupid things like, like you all know about, the whole place is a trash can, and I'll just lose it like that. And I'm trying not to ever do that again. But I wanted to say, as I look back on my life, and as you look back on your lives, I heard this thing the other day. It said, it was a question that you ask yourself or the person close to you, and they ask you the question back. It's like, would you even consider trading your problems for someone else's problems? And I look at my life and I'm like, nope. There are some things, everybody has some things. Been hurt, everybody's been hurt. Different degrees, different depths, if you will. Everybody's been hurt. Would I trade all of that for someone else's? No, I wouldn't trade it. It's so unsure. I've got it pretty good. And I think most of my kids and most of the people watching this that are my family, regardless of how they viewed me, if I was some tyrant or mean guy or child abuser or whatever, whatever their view is of all that, you had it good. Even if you didn't know it, you got to stop comparing yourself to perfection, because it doesn't exist, and just be thankful for the things that you got, things that you have, how it was. My dad, he said maybe he loved me one time in my entire life. And I think it was a response. It was after I said it when they got me a car. I remember being so overwhelmed, so surprised. I was the day I turned 16. I can share that story. That's a good story. So kind of digressing from my trading the problems thing, talking about how deep problems really are. So my mom and my dad and I didn't have the best relationship. I turned 16. I was really angry in that age, just all kind of frustrated like most teenagers, especially teenage boys are. They're trying to figure stuff out. And got up that morning, and mom and dad had taken me to this car lot like a month beforehand. And we were looking at this, it was a 76, I think, Ford LTD. It was blue, 4-door, big old car. And I remember it was like $1,500 or $2,000, which is, still a chunk of change back in the 80s, like in 83, I think it was. And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, it was like a basic car. The paint was faded on it, and it was only like 6 or 7 years old, but it seemed so old at the time. I was like, oh, that old car, but I loved it. I mean, I instantly fell in love with it because that was something they were considering getting me. And I was like, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm like, oh yeah, I absolutely love it. We test drove it. It was a boat. I mean, if you ever go, just look up like a 70, I think it was a 76 or 74, something like that, a Ford LTD. It was monster. Okay. We looked around the lot, and then we're like, hey, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? What do you think of that? And I remember, seeing a couple of other cars. I was like, oh, that is really cool, but I'm like, my mind's set on this blue one, and it's like, man, maybe we'll end up getting that or something. It was mom and dad's, like, not a promise to me, but I was like, so like hope. I was like, what? We might get that for me? And the morning of my birthday, we walked out. They had parked it in the garage. This was before mom and dad shut off part of the garage to put my mom's sewing machine stuff in there and keep it air conditioned so they could work for 48 hours straight, pumping it like a sweatshop. But in any case, they drove it in there, and that morning of the 16th, they're like, Mike, why don't you go out to the garage? And I was like, oh, I opened the door, and it wasn't the blue LTD. It was the other cool green car that I remember being like $2,500 or whatever. It was a 1978 Ford Granada, Ghia, G-H-I-A. It had that on it, the little placard on the side and everything. It had hubcaps on there, silver hubcaps, and with silver with green, in a green circle in the middle. It had the white vinyl top on it with the green. The whole inside of the car was green, deep green. Not like a lime green or like a bright leaf green. It was like a dark green, and I loved it. I cried. I might cry right now thinking about it. It was unbelievable. But I looked at my dad and Mom, I was like, "Thank you, I love you." I was like, "Yeah." And I was so thankful for that. Yeah. Anyways, so as bad as things seemed as far as not having a plentiful supply of love doted on me in ways of words, it was Christmases and it was gifts like that my mom and dad would like just provide me. Like every Christmas was ridiculous. I had presents. A lot of people think you get a present for Christmas. I got a stack. I remember one year, electronic games were just coming in to be a thing, and Coleco was a name brand, if you want to look that up, and they had this thing called head-to-head football, and basically you had this screen with 3 rows of red dots, and you controlled one of them, and you had like 3 blockers in front of you, and the other guy controlled the other one on the other side. It's called Coleco head-to-head football, and you're going tick, 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 with your thumbs, making them go up, down, this way, this way, this way, and then you could hit the pass button or the kick button, and oh man, I got that. I got a game called Bank Shot. I got handheld basketball, handheld every game, baseball game, soccer, and I didn't even know. I hated soccer as a kid. I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. Too much running, it was just present after present. Yeah. I think that's how Dad would say that he said he loved me, is that he liked buying stuff for me, like at Christmas, especially. And then on special occasions, like when I turned 16, they got me that car. And it was just unbelievable. And they bought me, to be fair, they helped me buy my next car, which was because I got in a wreck and the back of it got smashed up and it was totaled. So I had to get rid of that, of course, even though it was perfectly drivable and everything. But I got a 1983 Ford EXP. And it was like brand new. It was brand new, $10,000, and my mom and dad, almost $10,000, and my mom and dad were paying for it. I didn't pay anything on it, just the gas, and I totaled that car because a girl was going to a girl's house. I was, how we get like, oh, I'm going to girl. And I was following behind this truck that was going too slow, and the truck was going around this way, and I was right on his tail, and I looked this way around the front of the truck, I looked this way, nothing, and as soon as I pull out, it comes right around the corner, and boom, almost a head-on collision, going like, he was going like 55 or 60 miles per hour because it was a 2-lane highway. I spun around several times. The length of my car was like, not front to back this way, it's side to side. It had a peak in it because it got smashed this way and it got pushed together. In fact, I would always on that car pull up my emergency brake when I parked it. So after I spun around, I don't know how many times, but it felt like a lot of times, and everything was slow motion. I had to reach my hand down. My seats got smushed together, and reach my hand down between the seats to pull up the emergency brake. For what? I don't know. It was just a little bit of shock, I guess. Got out and didn't even get in that much trouble for that, which was a shock. I think everybody was just happy that no one was hurt. The only thing that happened to me, I had a cut on my leg from hitting the side of the dash, and and it was all soft, so we hit pretty hard. I ran over to that guy, and he was like, "Why did he pull out in front of me?" And his wrist is banged up, and he's bleeding up here from her head hit his steering wheel because the seatbelts were not required by law then. Well, no, they were. It was just as it started being a thing, because the cop goes, he goes, "Mike, Mr. Taggart, you know why you're not more seriously injured?" And I was like, because I was wearing my seatbelt. I was like a smart aleck, like, what are you saying? This is like a terrible thing. And I was so annoyed by his question. And he's like, no, because look here. And he started pointing at the car, and it missed the front edge of the car and hit like right below the headlight instead of right on the corner. Otherwise, it would have been a head-on collision, like by inches. Anyway, so more of my childhood there, being a stupid teenager. But yeah, so as bad as things were, as I thought they were, I wouldn't trade them. Because they're the ones I know, and I've had people surrounding me that love me and care about me now, that help me deal with my problems. I've got a Lord that helps with that. I wouldn't trade them. Because I really feel like others have got it worse than I do. Isn't that a selfish attitude? But anyhow, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm making these things too long as it is. It doesn't feel like it's been 30 minutes, but it shows 30 minutes up there. So just ask yourself that. And know I love you, and I don't want you to feel like a victim. I don't want you to feel like you're out of your league, or it's so hard, or it's so bad. If it is, like, talk to us, talk to people. Let's work it out. But just remind yourself of people who've got it worse. Not that that should make it better for you, because I've always hated that. Like, oh, well, at least you're not that bad. You know, X, like, oh, they don't have legs and blah. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about feeling glad that you're not them, but feel glad for your own problems, the ones that you have, that you're supposed to deal with. They can deal with their problems. You're dealing with your problems. You don't want to wish your problems on someone else, because it might be worse for them, and you don't want their problems. You don't be a victim. You've got kids. You've got everything good. You've had everything good. We may have not done it all right, but we didn't do it that wrong. Well, some things I did wrong. Okay, just it's in perspective. Don't sit there and yell at the screen. Oh, what about? What about? Just, yeah. I mean, I feel like I talked to you guys. We talked about your futures. We talked about love. We talked about the Lord. We've talked about families. We talked about trouble. We talked about good. We talked about bad. And a lot of us don't have the same relationships now, obviously, because you're not my child. I mean, you are my kid, but you're not a child anymore. So I feel like for example, with Christian, we don't talk deeply much, but I feel like, I could be a friend with that guy. I like Christian. I like how he turned out. I think, and there's not anybody in my family that I'm like, oh, not them. Well, maybe Zeke. No, just kidding. I'm hoping he watches this, because he's trying to do a thing right now where he's always trying to jump scare me. Ugh! He puts his hand on it and he laughs so hard. He thinks it's so funny. And most of the time it doesn't scare me. Pushes and he thinks that's me jumping, but he's like, ah! But today he actually jumped out of under the blanket and did go like that. And he goes, "Did that get you?" Like, yeah, that was a little bit. You got me a little bit on that. Oh! We laugh at the those things. But anyways, yeah. So obviously not Zeke. I'm not saying I don't like Zeke, but yeah. I mean, I like you all. You've all turned out amazing. I'm so proud of every one of you. And to be frank, I'm not proud of all the decisions. I'm not proud of all the choices that were made. But overall, wow, you guys are my best. Yeah, and I love you a lot. So we'll end it at that. So, peace. It's the dad. Talk to y'all later.